in our previous class, we have discussed about iterative statements. Okay. So in that we were discussing okay. So iterative statements, these are used for executing a block of statements and for performing repetitive operations kind of thing, or working on different kinds of duplicate for us to avoid any kind of duplicate code. We will be, and also to improve the performance, we'll be making use of iterative statements. So these four are the iterative statements which we have: while, do while, for, and enhanced for. So while, it's a pre-checking statement, and the syntax goes this way. It initially checks the condition. If the condition is true, then only the while block of statements will be executed. If the condition is false, it won't execute this particular block. Okay. And yeah, so we have done a couple of programs, small programs on how we are using the while iterative statement. Write an Apex program to generate the mathematical table. Yeah, this also we have done it. Okay. So do while statement. This one is a post-checking iterative statement where it executes the block of statements once, and then it checks for the condition. Okay. And that's why it is called post-checking iterative statement. Okay. So that means the block of statements gets executed at least once. In the real-time scenario, we will definitely come across some specific scenarios like this where we need to execute the block of statements at least once. So yes, in that case, we are going for do while. Okay. And then the for iterative statement. So for is so this one, yeah, the syntax, the for iterative statement, it is used for looping or performing multiple transactions within the loop. Okay, so here the for statement syntax looks like this: initialization part, conditions part, increment or decrement part. So in the while loop, we were doing the increment or decrement manually, but in for loop, we will be writing it here in the block of statements only. Okay, in our for loop. Okay. So it's a pre-checking statement which provides, and this will be repeated. The block of statements will be executed until the condition is satisfied. Okay, right. So, okay. So next, a small assignment. Let's write down this particular assignment. Write an Apex program to generate mathematical table or to print the numbers as below. So we have already done it, but we haven't made use of for loop. So now what we are going to do is we are going to write this program making use of the for loop. Okay. So let's go to our developer console. Go to our execute anonymous window. And then here we are writing our code. Okay. So here what we are doing, we are trying to print a table where by making use of the for loop. Okay. So let's go ahead and write down that. So any guesses how many variables we want to use? So we already did it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. One integer. Yes.
Integer number. Result.
Yeah. How many?
It's for
Is correct.
table, right? Table and
Yes.
counter.
Yes, correct. So yeah, we can take it as some max number I'm taking. And which table you want? Let's go with 14. And I wanted to keep the counter equals to 1. Okay. So how do we write for loop? For so actually, do we need this counter? Yes, we can actually define that in our for loop also. Okay. So we can write it this way. What is our syntax of for loop? For initialization part, then conditional part, then increment or decrement. This is our initialization. You can put the whole statement. Initialization condition should be counter less than or equals to 10, I would say. Or if you want to write a table of 20, you can, and counter plus plus the increment operator, right? And what do we need to do? We need to use our what? System.debug. Okay, what format we will be following? So first 14 table, right? So max number, um, and then plus we are going with star. If you want to give a space, it would for better readability. Slash, what do we need to display? Our counter variable 14 into 1 and is equals to, I need to display, right? Space, yep, is equals to, and what is it? Plus, we just need to multiply our max number with counter, and we need to enclose them in the braces because we are performing our multiplication operation. Okay. Yeah, I think this much only, right? Max number into counter is equals to max number into counter. Yeah. And then our semicolon, right? So do we need this? No. We have defined and initialized the variables in our for loop itself. We can do it. Okay. And is this correct? Or any doubts here? So we are printing the 14 table by making use of the for loop for iterative statement, which is a pre-checking iterative statement. Okay. So any questions here? No, right? Hope we are good. Let's go ahead and execute. Debug only. Here is our 14 table. We are good, right? Okay. You want any other table? Let's say 347 table. You can execute. Here is your 347 table. Okay. So I think we are good, right? So on the for loop itself, we are doing the what declaration as well as the initialization. Yes, we are allowed to do that. Okay, initialization part, condition part, and increment, decrement. Yeah, if you see initialization, conditions, and increment, decrement, yes, we can do that initialization also in our for loop itself. Okay, yeah, this is our small program for writing the mathematical table. The same program we have written previously. So let's take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines of code, right? So now what we did, it's just 4 lines of code, right? So we have reduced the lines of code or the number of characters a little bit. So that is how our for loop works. We have another for loop called for enhanced for loop. Yes, we will be discussing that in detail after our arrays because arrays are needed. So arrays are nothing but these are, okay, the scenario comes on like this. Let me show you. So let's take integer, some customer codes. Okay. So I am defining the variable here just, okay. And what I'm doing is I'm not assigning any value to it. So by default, Salesforce will store what it will store.
None.
Yeah, I was waiting for you. Okay. So by default, it stores null value. So next, what I did is I wanted to initialize this particular variable. Let's say um, customer codes is equals to 12,001. This is my customer code, let's say. So I have stored this variable. Okay. So what happens now? The null is replaced with this 12,001. Okay. So we remove this and replace it with 12,001. Okay. And next time when I assign one more value to this variable, customer codes, 12,002, let's say, so 12,001 will be erased and 12,002 will be stored, right? So this is how it works when we define a variable as an integer, because this particular integer variable called customer codes is actually holding only one value. And whenever we assign a new value, the previous value gets wiped off. Okay. So that's where we come across a concept called arrays. So arrays are used to hold uh, homogeneous data types together in a at a single place. Okay. So while defining the array, we will have to define our size also. We have to define, um, you know, it won't support, we have to define the size and we have to yeah, this is one important thing. So while defining an array, we will have to define the size and it allows only homogeneous elements. So if you define your array as integer array, only integers are allowed. Or if you define your array as a string, only string data types are allowed. Okay. So each element can be in the array can be recognized with the help of index position. Okay. So let me share. Yeah. So arrays allows us to store collection of homogeneous elements. We can store similar data type of elements in the array. Array won't support heterogeneous and purely supporting the static memory, right? So we will be defining our size of the array. That's where it is going to allocate the memory for on a contiguous allocation. Okay. I would say on a memory heap, it will be a continuous memory allocation for an array. It won't be like so our memory allocation will be like 0x 22, something like this. So let's say this is our memory location of our array started. So the next one will be, so first index 0 element, index 1 element will be stored here, something like that. Okay. So it will be continuous memory allocation. So that is where we can access our array elements with the help of index. And for array, the index starts with 0. So, and if you have 10 elements, it's 0 to 9. Okay. And arrays can't grow or shrink at the runtime. So we will have to define the size first. So we cannot grow it or shrink it. That's the drawback. Okay. So this is how the syntax looks like for an array. So data type, square brackets, array name is equals to new data type. Inside the square brackets, you give the size. Okay. So if you say integer customer codes is equals to new of integer 10. 10 is the size of this array, holds maximum of 10 integer elements. String country names, okay, new string 100 holds 100 string elements. Okay, ID, account array of account records is equals to new of account 40. So this particular account records array can hold 40 account records. Okay. So similarly, case, position, our position. Okay. So once the array has been defined with the required size, we can store the elements inside the array. Yeah, this is all simple concept. Okay. So yeah, array and index position. So we can define our array and then we can assign value. So customer codes of, let's say 10 we have defined. So we can assign values making use of the index positions. Customer codes of 0, first element, second element, and we have defined 10. So it should be customer codes of 9 should be the final element. Okay. So this is how it cannot be 10, it's 9 because it's starting with 0. Okay. So if we define a size of 10 customer codes, then we can assign the values like this, assigning the values and retrieving the values. Yes, we can also retrieve the values with the help of index positions. But if you want to display the complete array, you can also display it with the help of just, um, calling the array name. So if you see here, customer codes of 0, but if I just put customer codes, then it is going to print all the elements of the array separated by commas, okay, in a single line. Okay, so that's how it the array works. Okay, so this is the syntax defining array. So integer customer codes is equals to new of integer. It's an array called customer codes of size 5. And yeah, Apex has given one size method for arrays, which is used to give the size of that particular array. So you can call that customer codes dot size. This just gives uh, the value as 5. Okay, it just prints the value as 5. So Yes, as I told, we can put all the elements together by just calling the array name. So they all the elements in the array will be displayed with separated by comma in a single line. Okay. Okay. So define the array and store the elements. So let's go ahead and do a small uh, array example. Back to our developer console and anonymous window. So let's go ahead and write down a small code. So we just need to define an array and we will have to hold some customer records. Okay. So how we are going to define integer customer codes, and you will have to use this is the syntax square brackets is equals to new integer. How much size we need? We will be using 5. Right. This is how you define your array, and you are mentioning the size of the array as well. Okay. Now what will we do? We will go ahead and what will we do? We will go ahead and put assign the values to the customer codes, right? So customer codes of, let's take, we are assigning 5 values for our customer codes because we have 0 to 4. Right? So we are just assigning the value, let's say some 9001. So what I'm doing is I'm defining, assigning the values to the array variables. Okay. And our favorite semicolon is needed. Right? So this is how we assign the values to the array. And now what we need to do, we just need to print our array elements. Let's see. Let's say customer codes array hash slash of our just array name. Here we don't need the square brackets just to print the complete array. Okay. So this is how you can define an array. Integer customer codes is equals to new of integer 5, and we are defining the size of the array as well. And we are assigning values to the index positions, each index position. And then we are printing here what we are printing. If you see, we are printing complete array. Okay. So now it should display like customer codes array has followed by 9001 comma 9002 in a single line. Okay. This is how it is going to be displayed. What is it? Any spelling mistakes? Do you see anything
Delete.
mistake here? Yep.
Instead of new integer, you should write, I think, customer code there. No? Already we gave integer, right?
Yes. Okay. I think there is some mistake here. We can even do that way as well. We can do this way. 1 second. Okay. So what is the mistake here is the square brackets. So we can either give this way. Yeah. So that is what. So it's the data type followed by the square brackets. That's what we were missing. So I was confused with the Java type of thing. Okay. Hope you understood. The data type followed by the square brackets, and then your array name. is equals to new of data type square brackets, and you will have to define the size, right? So this is how it works. Integer square brackets customer codes is equals to new of integer 5. Okay, so this is how we can just, but if we want to display the elements in separated line, so what do we need to do? We can just print each element with the help of index position. Yeah, there is another way also, we will talk about it. Right, so here it will print all the elements in a separate line. So I just want to give a line break statement here. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute now. All the elements will be printed in a new line, each in a new line. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute. Okay, so here first program, it is showing complete all the elements in one single line separated by commas. In our second one, we were displaying all the elements separately, making use of the index position. This is second way. But we can also do the same with the help of what we have discussed in the previous class. So if it is repetitive statements, what we are going to do?
Counter.
Yeah, which statements we are using? Iterative statements. Okay, so this one we are going to do with the help of our for loop also. Okay, so what we are going to do now, I'm going to put this again in our line. So making use of our for loop for index. So we are defining our index variable is equals to, so index can be how much? It is less than or equals to 5. Okay, and then our so here index, what do you want to start with? Is equals initialization. So we can go with 0 or 1, but we have to go with 0 because our array index position starts with 0. Okay, and index less than or equals to 5. I can either hard code it, or we can also make use of one other method. What is that method we were talking today? Index, the last one is I'm incrementing. So this is my for loop. Yeah, can anyone think of what we can write here. Instead of hard coding it, I wanted to use it dynamically. Do I have any method for that? System dot customer code of this one. I have to put index, correct? So currently indexed value will be printed. And then it increments and checks for the condition again. Are you getting this one? Index less than or equals to 5. So instead of this statement, if I don't want to pass it as 5, what should I do? Yeah. So we have a method called customer code dot size, right? So it will return what? Customer code of size, it will return 5. So here we were working from 0, so it should be just less than. We should remove that equals to, right? So we can write this way as well. Index is equal 0, index less than customer code dot size. This will return a value called 5 since we have defined it as 5, and index increment operator we are doing, and then displaying the customer codes, right? Index 0, index less than or equals to 5, and increment. So initialization, right? Condition, and then increment or decrement. All we are doing in our for loop. So let's go ahead and execute now. So this should display customer code is 9001 in one line, 9002 in second line. So it will be again same as this output, but here we are making use of our for loop. 29, what is it? Let's execute. I didn't understand. Variable does not exist, column 20, line 23, column 29.
Mistake. Codes.
Customer code array we have defined, right? Oh, codes, yeah, spelling mistake. Cool, cool, cool. This is what
Next slide.
happens.
Next slide.
Okay, so we are good. With the for loop also, we are able to print the same result in multiple lines. Okay, so now let's go ahead and discuss our enhanced for loop. Okay, so I'm again using this particular line of code. So what is this enhanced for loop? Enhanced for loop is similar to our for loop, but it is like a little more enhanced version of it. So when I say enhanced version, so here in our for loop, we are doing the separate counter variable or index variable or any integer I we call usually. Okay, so we are defining a variable which we are making use for our looping statement. Okay, but in our for loop, in our enhanced for loop, we don't need to do this in increment or decrement operations. The for loop itself automatically defines that particular increment operations. Okay, so per, and it's same as this. This syntax is same, and you have to keep colon. Okay, so we have two parts here. One is the left side and the other one is the right side. So on the left side, what we are going to do is we are going to define our variables. Okay, and on the right side, what we are going to do, so here, what we are doing is integer, let's say code. So this is our looping variable. And this side, what we are passing, we just need to pass our array. So our array is customer codes. So we are not, if you observe, we are not doing any increment or decrement operations here. We just passed our variable and then our array. So the complete array we are passing. So the for loop itself is going to take care of the increment or increment operation. Okay. So that's the major difference between normal for loop and the enhanced for loop. So in the real-time scenarios, we are going to make use of enhanced for loop in 90% of the cases and for loop in other cases where we might need reverse printing as well. Okay, so enhanced for loop has a drawback where it can traverse only forward. It cannot traverse backwards. That means if you want to print the elements from, let's say, 100 to 1, it cannot do the decrement operator. So it is only forward, right? So it has only the forward cursor. So it prints the elements in a forward manner. So if you want to come in a reverse way, uh, we should go for our normal for. Okay, but most of the scenarios, like 80 to 90% of the scenarios, it's like it goes with increment operation. So that's where we make use of this enhanced for loop in most of the cases. Okay, so system.debug, customer code is, okay. Let's see if this is correct or not. Okay, so this is how you write the enhanced for loop. Right, you can see that, right? So this is our first statement, printing the complete array. And this one, we are printing the array elements in the new line. This is our for loop. This is our enhanced for loop. So everything is here. So this is how our enhanced for loop works. Okay. So we can do this making use of normal arrays. So we can print the arrays and we can use multiple print. But if we know the size, if it is limited, probably this way we can do, but again, not advisable. So advised to go for iterative statements, either for loop or enhanced for loop. Yes, we are doing that. So in the enhanced for loop, if you see, there is more precise code than the normal for loop. Okay, see, even the number of characters also we have reduced, right? So that's what the increment operation it is going to take care. So that's where we in the real time we will be using more in most of the cases the enhanced for loop. Okay, right. So this is all about our enhanced for loop. And okay, so till now we have did what arrays, and only the integer arrays we have done. So how to assign the values we have discussed, how to display the values we have discussed, and then arrays. So how we are displaying the values of array with the help of for loop and with the help of enhanced for loop. So we have discussed all this. So let's go ahead and write a small program for arrays with which are making use of um, let's say string variables. Okay, so for string variables, how we are going to define our arrays, we are going to see that. Okay, so defining a string array and then storing the values inside it. So that is what we are going to do. Let's say some string. Don't forget this syntax. The square bracket is just beside the data type. Country names is our array name. New string. So how many country names we want? Let's say 6 or something. Yeah, this is the syntax. You will have to remember this, the square brackets and all. Okay. So here, what I wanted to do is I wanted to even assign the values in the definition itself. How can I do that? Okay. So yes, we can do, instead of writing the size of the array, uh, here we can directly go ahead and give string and then followed by our flower braces. And this is where you can define our country names. India. And these should be separated with a comma. Okay, so 6 country names we have defined, and then so here you can either mention the size or you can leave it, but based on the number of elements here, it is going to take the size of that. Okay, so we are defining the array as well as we are also initializing the array elements, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do system.debug. Array size is. So how can we pull out the size of the array? Can anyone see? Yes, size. I just want to print the size of this array. Array name dot size. Okay. Right. So yes, this way we are just printing the elements, the size of the array. And then next, what we are going to do, we are going to print the array elements. Okay, so let's go ahead and make use of our enhanced for loop. For, let's say, string country names, I'm taking it as C colon, and what we are passing our array to the enhanced for loop, and then the block of statements what we need to execute. Country name is, let's say, and plus our C. Right, so this is how we can make use of our enhanced for loop. Okay, so so what we are doing, we are defining an array of type string, and we are already initializing. So as we are initializing, we are not mentioning the size by ourselves. It's going to calculate. Okay, so here we have 6 elements. So the first statement, array dot system.debug array size is country names dot size. So it's going to calculate the size of this, and it's going to print array size is 6. Okay, and in our for loop, we are initializing a string variable C, and then we are passing our array country names, and then we are displaying all the array elements one by one. Okay, right? So this is how we can write the code for our string type of array, making use of the enhanced for loop. So let's go ahead and execute. Click on debug. Yes, here it is. Array size is country name and all. Okay. So this is how you can make use of the elements to be printed with the help of enhanced for loop. Okay. Right. Hope you understood. Any doubts? Right. So today we have discussed about iterative statements, the previous class ones. As part of it, while and do while we have did it in our previous class. So, and as part of this class, we were discussing the for loop and enhanced for loop. So in the to make you understand these things, we have understood what is arrays in Apex. So array definition and how we are going to assign values to arrays, and how we are going to retrieve value from array. So that we have discussed, and we have discussed how we are going to make use of for loop and enhanced for loop with the help of arrays, that we have discussed. Okay. So here, if you observe, there are, in order to store homogeneous data types, we are going ahead and making use of arrays. Okay. So, but we have a drawback. What if I need to store heterogeneous data types? That means one string, one integer, one decimal, something like that. Yes. So that's not possible in arrays. And in arrays, there is a small limitation where, you define an array, and then you will have to define the size of the array. So let's say I define an array of size 5, and I have given only 3 country names in it. So that means the other 2 country names memory is going to be wasted. Okay. So when we are defining the array, it is going to reserve the memory. But while initializing, if you give only 3 values, the other 2 values are not there. So it's going to waste memory, right? So there is a chance of memory wastage in arrays. Okay. So that is one more drawback of arrays. Okay. So that's where we come across another type of uh, statements, or another type of elements called as collections. So yes, collections are used. So these are specific type of data types with which we use within our Apex programming. Okay, so I hope these are not too much used in Java, very rarely, right? So in arrays, sorry. So we have something called another type of elements called as collections. So these collections are going to be used in our um, so these collections are going to be used in our programming to make use of, efficiently and dynamically assign variables, dynamically allocate memory. So for that reason, we are going to make use of something called collections. And yes, so that is all for today's class. We will discuss in detail about the collections. Okay. So starting with lists, maps, and sets. So these are the three types of collections we have. Apart from that, we can also define the object types as well, right? So all these three types of collections we are going to discuss in detail, and then we are going to discuss other SOSL and SOQL queries as well in the coming classes, right? All right. So this is all for today's class. We'll meet again tomorrow. Have a good day. Thank you.